second million comes shockingly quick. The moment you make your first million, everything changes. But not in the way most people think. It's not about the number in your bank account. It's about the shift in your internal framework. The first million is a battle against your conditioning, your fears, and your beliefs about what's possible. It's a test of emotional endurance. Every decision feels heavy. Every loss feels personal, and every gain feels like luck that could vanish tomorrow. You're not just learning how to make money, you're learning how to think differently about money. But once you cross that invisible threshold, something happens. You begin to see the game for what it really is, a system of probabilities, not emotions. You stop needing to prove yourself to the market, to others, or to your past. You've already broken through the hardest barrier. Not the financial one, but the psychological one. That's why your second million doesn't just come easier. It comes shockingly quick. The second million happens because you've detached from the illusion of control. You stop fighting the market or the process. You've accepted that success isn't about predicting outcomes. It's about aligning yourself with opportunities as they naturally unfold. You've learned to trust your edge, to execute without hesitation, and to let go of what you can't control. That freedom, mental, emotional, and financial, is what accelerates growth. In the beginning, every dollar feels like a mountain to climb. You analyze every move, second-guess every trade, and feel the emotional roller coaster of wins and losses. But as you evolve, you realize the market doesn't care about your emotions. It responds to consistency, not anxiety. Your perspective widens. You start seeing patterns where before there was chaos, you start responding instead of reacting. The same moves that once felt risky now feel natural, almost effortless. The irony is that your second million isn't about doing more. It's about doing at less, but doing it better. It's about refining your mindset, tightening your discipline, and trusting your process. You no longer chase opportunities. You allow them to come to you because you finally understand that wealth is not hunted. It's attracted through alignment, clarity, and self-trust. The first million teaches you the language of wealth. The second million teaches you fluency, and fluency brings speed. What once took years to accumulate now begins to compound effortlessly because you were operating from confidence instead of fear, from abundance instead of scarcity. When you make your first million, you prove that it's possible. When you make your second, you realize it's inevitable. The difference between the two isn't knowledge, it's identity. The person who earns the second million isn't the same person who fought for the first. The second comes quick because you become the kind of person for whom success is no longer surprising. It's simply the natural outcome of who you are becoming. The journey to your first million is often portrayed as a financial milestone, a tangible number that validates success and competence in the world of wealth creation. But the truth is far more subtle and far-reaching than merely accumulating money. The first million is not just a financial achievement, it is primarily a psychological breakthrough. Before you reach it, your mindset is confined by beliefs about scarcity, fear, and limitation. You are conditioned to see the world in terms of what you lack, what could go wrong, and what might be impossible. Every financial decision is clouded by doubt. You hesitate because you fear failure, and you hesitate further because the stakes feel enormous. Each dollar you earn feels hard-won. Each loss feels catastrophic. And each opportunity is analyzed to the point of paralysis in this stage. The number one challenge isn't the mechanics of making money. It is mastering your own mind. You have to navigate the emotional turbulence that comes with uncertainty, risk, and the unknown. The lessons are not taught in textbooks. They are learned in real time, often at great personal cost. You begin to notice the patterns of thought that hold you back, the internal dialogues of fear, self-sabotage, and doubt. The realization that these internal barriers are the true obstacles to wealth is often uncomfortable, even shocking. Most people believe the first million will come when they find the right opportunity, the perfect strategy, or the perfect timing. But the reality is that without mastering your own psychology, no strategy can succeed consistently. The first million forces you to confront the truth about yourself, your habits, your reactions, your willingness to endure discomfort, and your capacity to delay gratification. It is the first time that you are tested not by the market, the economy, or competitors, but by your own limitations. You learn that wealth is not simply earned, it is allowed, and allowing it requires a mental shift from scarcity thinking to abundance thinking. Every decision you make during this stage is magnified in its impact, not necessarily because the stakes are higher, but because the lessons are sharper. You are pushed to examine why you act the way you do, what motivates you, and what you fear most. The first million is also a mirror. It reflects the truth of your character, your discipline, and your resilience. It teaches you that fear will always be present, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is taking action despite it. During this journey, you start recognizing that money itself is neutral. It is your beliefs, your habits, and your emotional responses that shape your financial outcomes. You begin to detach your identity from every setback and every win, understanding that each is a reflection of process, not personal worth. This detachment is essential because it allows you to learn from mistakes without being paralyzed by them. The first million also introduces you to the concept of leverage, how your decisions, time, and focus can multiply outcomes far beyond your immediate effort. You start to see that wealth creation is less about labor and more about alignment, discipline, and the intelligent application of knowledge. Your thinking shifts from short-term survival to long-term strategy, from reactive impulses to proactive planning. As you progress, you begin to notice the invisible forces that shape financial success: emotional resilience, clarity of thought, patience, and the willingness to embrace uncertainty. These qualities, often overlooked by those who chase only the numbers, become your most valuable assets. You discover that financial literacy alone is insufficient. Without the mastery of your mind, even the best strategies will falter under pressure. The first million, thus, represents a comprehensive test, a crucible that transforms not only your financial capacity, but your internal framework for decision-making. It demands that you confront deeply ingrained habits, rewire your thinking, and embrace discomfort as part of growth. At this stage, the external rewards, money, recognition, status, are secondary to the internal victories: control over impulses, confidence in judgment, and the ability to act decisively amidst uncertainty. You learn that wealth is not something you chase, it is something you become capable of holding and managing. This is the true essence of the psychological breakthrough that the first million represents. Once you reach your first significant milestone, a transformation begins, but it is subtle and often overlooked. Success, particularly financial success, accelerates dramatically when you detach from fear and emotional attachment. Most people operate in their lives driven by fear: fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of missing out, and fear of the unknown. These fears dictate decisions, slow action, and limit growth. Fear creates hesitation, indecision, and second-guessing, which often leads to missed opportunities and wasted energy. Emotional attachment, on the other hand, ties you to outcomes, making every win and loss feel personal and magnified. When you are emotionally attached to results, your judgment becomes clouded, your decisions are reactive rather than strategic. The key to moving from ordinary success to extraordinary acceleration is learning to separate yourself from these emotional pressures. Detachment is not about indifference or lack of care. It is about clarity, control, and objectivity. It allows you to operate from a place of logic, strategy, and calm assessment rather than panic, greed, or desperation. When you detach from fear and emotional attachment, you start to see the world as it is, not as your anxiety or desires paint it. Opportunities that once felt risky or impossible now appear as logical possibilities. You begin to evaluate scenarios based on probability and alignment rather than emotion. This mindset shift is profound because it changes your approach to both risk and reward. Where before you might have hesitated or overanalyzed, you now take decisive, confident action. The speed at which you move increases, but so does the quality of your decisions. Emotional detachment allows you to embrace uncertainty without being paralyzed by it. You understand that uncertainty is inherent in every venture, investment, or decision, and it is not something to fear, but something to navigate with skill. Fear, in its essence, is the mind's reaction to uncertainty. By detaching from it, you neutralize its paralyzing effect. You stop overreacting to short-term fluctuations, setbacks, or criticism. Instead, you focus on patterns, processes, and long-term objectives when you operate without emotional attachment. Losses are temporary feedback rather than personal failures. Gains are understood as results of your process rather than validation of worth. This balanced perspective allows you to reinvest your energy and resources where they are most effective rather than chasing fleeting highs or avoiding imagined catastrophes. Detachment also improves your resilience. Emotional attachment magnifies disappointment and increases stress, which in turn clouds judgment and decision-making. By letting go of attachment, you maintain clarity and focus even in high-pressure situations. This clarity enables faster problem-solving and a more accurate reading of opportunities. Moreover, detachment encourages consistency. When your decisions are free from the influence of fear or excessive excitement, you follow your strategy with discipline. You no longer abandon plans due to emotional swings or impulsive reactions. Instead, you execute with precision, knowing that consistency compounds into long-term results. Accelerated success is often misunderstood as the result of talent, luck, or timing, but the reality is that emotional detachment allows you to leverage opportunities more efficiently. While others are stalled by hesitation, second-guessing, or panic, you move forward decisively. Opportunities that would intimidate others become manageable because your actions are informed by strategy and observation, rather than emotion. Detachment also enhances learning. Emotional involvement tends to distort perception. It makes mistakes feel catastrophic and successes feel extraordinary. Detachment allows you to view every outcome objectively, extracting lessons without ego interference. This objective approach accelerates growth because you refine strategies, processes, and decisions much faster than those who react emotionally. As a result, you begin to notice patterns that others miss. You can anticipate shifts, trends, and possibilities because your mind is uncluttered by fear, attachment, or overreaction. Decisions that once required weeks of contemplation can now be made with confidence in hours or even minutes without sacrificing accuracy. Furthermore, detachment fosters creativity and innovation. Emotional attachment often enforces rigidity. You become overly committed to a single path or idea because it represents security or validation. When detached, you are free to explore new avenues, take calculated risks, and adapt strategies in real time. Your capacity to respond flexibly to change increases exponentially. The impact of detachment is cumulative. Each decision made without fear or excessive attachment reinforces your confidence, sharpens your judgment, and accelerates your trajectory. What once seemed difficult, uncertain, or overwhelming begins to feel manageable, natural, and even inevitable. Success in this context accelerates not because external conditions change, but because your internal framework allows you to operate at a higher level of effectiveness. You see opportunities faster, evaluate them more clearly, act decisively, and extract lessons more efficiently. Emotional detachment becomes a multiplier, amplifying every skill, strategy, and resource you possess. It is the hidden lever that separates those who achieve ordinary results from those who achieve extraordinary acceleration. Consistency and process outweigh prediction and control in the pursuit of wealth and success. And this is a principle that often eludes those who focus solely on outcomes. Many people enter financial markets, business ventures, or personal growth paths with the belief that success is about predicting the next opportunity perfectly or controlling every variable in their environment. They believe that if they could just forecast the market correctly, time their decisions precisely, or manipulate circumstances to their advantage, then they would achieve success. What they fail to understand is that prediction is inherently unreliable and control is an illusion. The world is complex, unpredictable, and constantly changing. External events, market shifts, human behavior, and random occurrences all interact in ways that cannot be fully anticipated or controlled. Attempting to rely on prediction or control leads to anxiety, overanalysis, and inconsistent performance. It is the focus on consistency and adherence to a disciplined process that separates those who achieve long-term success from those who struggle. Consistency is the practice of applying your skills, strategies, and principles reliably over time, regardless of immediate outcomes. It is the commitment to showing up, executing, and refining your methods even when results are not immediately apparent. Consistency builds momentum and creates compounding effects that prediction alone cannot generate. When you operate consistently, you remove the dependence on luck, timing, or perfect foresight. Process is the framework that guides your consistency. A process is a structured approach to decision-making and action-taking that is repeatable, measurable, and adaptable. It defines the steps you follow, the criteria you use, and the standards you uphold in pursuit of your goals. A strong process allows you to act decisively because you are not constantly second-guessing each choice. Instead, you rely on a tested method that aligns with your long-term objectives. Prediction is uncertain because the future is shaped by countless variables beyond your knowledge or influence. Control is limited because even the best plans can be disrupted by unforeseen events. Process, however, is entirely within your control. You decide how rigorously to follow it, how carefully to refine it, and how consistently to implement it. By focusing on process rather than outcomes, you cultivate resilience and adaptability. You learn to trust that your disciplined actions will yield results over time, even if short-term fluctuations are unpredictable. The discipline of following a process consistently also mitigates the impact of emotions on decision-making. Many failures in wealth creation or personal growth occur not because of flawed strategies, but because of emotional interference. Fear, greed, impatience, and overconfidence cause individuals to abandon their plans, take unnecessary risks, or deviate from proven methods. Consistency and process act as a stabilizing force, keeping you aligned with your strategy despite external pressures or emotional impulses. The compounding power of process-driven consistency cannot be overstated. Small, disciplined actions, repeated daily, accumulate into significant outcomes over time. A single trade, investment, or decision may appear insignificant, but when executed consistently according to a sound process, it contributes to a trajectory of growth that prediction alone could never ensure. Process also enables continuous improvement. By consistently following a method and evaluating its outcomes, you create a feedback loop. Each iteration provides data and insights that allow you to refine your approach, optimize performance, and enhance decision-making. Over time, this process-driven refinement compounds into expertise and mastery, giving you an edge that luck or prediction cannot replicate. Those who rely solely on prediction often fall prey to volatility. They chase trends, react impulsively to new information, and overcommit to perceived opportunities. This reactive behavior creates inconsistency and exposes them to unnecessary risk. In contrast, those who adhere to a disciplined process maintain stability, focus, and strategic alignment. They respond to change intelligently rather than react emotionally. Process and consistency also foster confidence. When you trust in a system that has proven effective over time, your decisions become more deliberate and less influenced by doubt or fear. Confidence reinforces action, and action, executed consistently, drives results. This creates a positive cycle where process, consistency, and confidence feed one another, accelerating growth and enhancing performance. Furthermore, focusing on process over prediction encourages patience. Outcomes in wealth creation, business, or personal development are rarely instantaneous. By committing to a process, you acknowledge that success is built over time and that disciplined, repeated actions are more reliable than chasing immediate results or attempting to predict the next big opportunity. The long-term advantage of consistency and process is particularly evident in complex systems such as financial markets or business ecosystems, where uncertainty is the norm while others are paralyzed by the need to predict every movement or control every variable. Those who adhere to a process navigate complexity with clarity and purpose. They understand that by focusing on what they can control, execution, discipline, and refinement, they maximize their probability of success, regardless of short-term unpredictability. Over time, the compounding effect of process-driven consistency produces results that far exceed those achievable through prediction or attempts at control. Success becomes less about being right in the moment and more about being reliable, disciplined, and adaptable across countless moments. This approach transforms uncertainty from a source of stress into an opportunity for steady progress, allowing long-term outcomes to emerge naturally from disciplined effort rather than forced foresight. The second million comes through refinement, not more effort, and this is a principle that often surprises those who equate wealth with hard work alone. After the first million, the natural assumption is that success requires doubling down, increasing activity, and working harder than ever before. People imagine long hours, intense effort, and relentless pursuit as the formula for accelerated results. While effort is important, the truth is that what separates the accumulation of the first million from the second is not raw effort. It is refinement. Refinement is the process of improving what you already do, identifying inefficiencies, and leveraging existing strengths more effectively. It is about sharpening the edge rather than swinging harder. The first million teaches you the basics: how to identify opportunities, manage risks, and execute decisions under pressure. It is a period of trial and error, learning through experience and developing foundational skills. By the time you reach this stage, you have accumulated knowledge, confidence, and a set of practices that work. Refinement is about taking these proven methods and optimizing them to create faster, more reliable results. This begins with a meticulous examination of your processes. Every action, every decision, and every strategy is scrutinized to determine where improvements can be made. Small adjustments in timing, execution, or focus can yield disproportionately large results. You start to notice patterns that were invisible. When you are overwhelmed with effort or consumed by trial and error, refinement requires discipline and honesty. You must be willing to admit what is not working, even if it feels uncomfortable, and embrace changes that might initially challenge your assumptions. This willingness to adjust is a hallmark of those who achieve accelerated wealth. It is not about abandoning what works. It is about perfecting and enhancing it. Efficiency becomes a critical focus. Whereas the first million may have been earned through sheer persistence and learning from mistakes, the second million often comes from doing less, but doing it better. Every wasted motion, unnecessary step, or redundant effort is identified and removed. Resources, time, energy, capital are allocated with precision to maximize impact. Refinement also involves elevating your decision-making. Experience has provided insight, but insight alone is not sufficient. You refine your ability to assess risk, to recognize opportunities before others do, and to execute with clarity and confidence. Decisions that once took hours of deliberation can now be made quickly because your criteria are sharpened and your instincts are calibrated by experience. Another aspect of refinement is emotional mastery. The second million is less about reacting to external stimuli and more about controlling internal responses. Emotional highs and lows, which may have influenced early decisions, are now tempered. You act with intention, guided by rational analysis and proven principles, rather than impulses or fear. This emotional refinement ensures that your actions are consistent, deliberate, and aligned with long-term objectives. Strategic focus is also a key component. The second million often requires prioritizing high-impact activities over busy work. You concentrate on initiatives that yield the greatest return on investment, whether in business, investments, or personal development. Diversions are minimized, distractions are managed, and attention is directed toward what truly drives growth. Refinement amplifies leverage. With experience, knowledge, and resources, you can create mechanisms that multiply your results without increasing effort. Systems, teams, technology, and strategic partnerships become extensions of your capabilities, allowing you to scale your impact efficiently. Every element of your operation is optimized to work smarter, not harder. Learning from feedback is central to this stage. Refinement is iterative. It is a cycle of action, observation, adjustment, and improvement. Each step informs the next, creating a continuous loop of optimization. Mistakes are no longer merely setbacks. They are data points that accelerate the refinement process. Adaptability is heightened because refinement emphasizes flexibility and responsiveness. The refined approach is not rigid. It evolves as conditions change. Opportunities are seized faster because your methods are clear, your judgment is honed, and your confidence is grounded in repeated success. The compounding effect of refinement is significant. Small improvements in processes, decision-making, emotional regulation, and focus accumulate exponentially over time. What once required years of effort to achieve may now be accomplished in months because the framework is leaner, sharper, and more effective. Refinement also enhances clarity of vision. By stripping away noise, inefficiency, and emotional distraction, you see opportunities with greater precision. You understand where to invest resources, which risks are worth taking, and how to position yourself for accelerated growth. This clarity reduces wasted energy and increases the probability of successful outcomes. The second million is rarely the result of brute force. It is the natural outcome of optimized actions, informed decisions, and a highly efficient mindset. While effort laid the foundation for your first success, refinement accelerates the trajectory of your continued growth. It is the deliberate honing of skills, processes, and perspectives that turns experience into exponential results, transforming competence into mastery and effort into influence. The process is continuous, demanding vigilance, curiosity, and a commitment to self-improvement, ensuring that every step taken is sharper, faster, and more precise than the last. Identity transformation is the key to rapid wealth accumulation, and this concept goes far deeper than the simple mechanics of earning money or executing strategies. Most people approach financial success as a series of external actions. Finding opportunities, making investments, or increasing effort. While these are important, they are superficial if they are not accompanied by an internal transformation. Your results are a direct reflection of who you are and how you think. Until your identity evolves, your financial outcomes will be limited by the beliefs, habits, and self-concept you carry. Identity transformation begins with self-awareness. You must first recognize who you are in relation to money, success, and risk. Many people unconsciously adopt limiting identities, seeing themselves as unlucky, unworthy, or incapable of achieving great wealth. These internal narratives dictate behavior, influence decisions, and ultimately constrain outcomes. The journey toward the second million or accelerated wealth in general requires replacing these limiting identities with empowering ones. You must see yourself as capable, deserving, and competent, not just as a temporary agent acting in a certain context. When your identity shifts, your behavior naturally aligns with it. Actions that once felt forced, risky, or uncomfortable now feel natural. The habits, discipline, and decision-making required for wealth become an extension of your self-concept rather than an external imposition. This alignment between identity and behavior is crucial because inconsistent actions, even when informed by knowledge, rarely produce lasting results. Identity transformation also rewires perception. The person you become begins to notice opportunities that were invisible before. You start seeing patterns in markets, industries, and human behavior because your mental framework has expanded. This is not mere learning or experience. It is the lens through which you interpret the world changing. With a transformed identity, you interpret challenges as growth opportunities rather than threats. Risks are evaluated logically instead of emotionally. Setbacks are seen as feedback instead of failure. This shift in perception allows for faster, more confident decisions, which compound into accelerated outcomes. Another key aspect of identity transformation is emotional resilience. Wealth creation is inherently stressful and uncertain. Without a robust internal identity, external pressures, market volatility, competition, unexpected obstacles can destabilize progress. A transformed identity provides stability, confidence, patience, and self-trust. Replace doubt, fear, and impulsivity. Decisions become deliberate rather than reactionary, creating a foundation for consistent, high-quality execution. Identity transformation also fosters discipline at a level that effort alone cannot achieve. While knowledge and strategies can be taught, discipline is reinforced by who you believe yourself to be when your identity aligns. With wealth, success, and long-term thinking, the actions required to sustain growth become habitual. You no longer rely solely on motivation, which fluctuates. Instead, your behavior is consistent because it is congruent with your sense of self. The transformation further enhances adaptability. As your identity evolves, so does your capacity to embrace change. You are no longer confined by old patterns of thinking or fear of failure. You can pivot, experiment, and innovate without hesitation because your sense of self is anchored in competence and possibility rather than circumstance. This flexibility accelerates results because opportunities often favor those who can move decisively in response to dynamic environments. Identity transformation also elevates vision and strategic thinking. Once you see yourself as a person capable of substantial success, your goals expand naturally. You think bigger, plan longer term, and act with greater intentionality. You stop settling for incremental gains and start positioning yourself for exponential outcomes. Your internal dialogue changes from "can I achieve this?" to "what is the most effective way to achieve this?" This shift in perspective drives actions that compound quickly, producing results that seem disproportionate to the effort applied. Moreover, identity transformation impacts relationships and networks. The person you become attracts collaborators, partners, and mentors who align with your level of thinking and ambition. Opportunities often flow through relationships, and a transformed identity positions you to recognize, pursue, and benefit from them. You become a magnet for situations and people that accelerate growth rather than obstacles that drain energy. Learning and growth accelerate as well because a transformed identity embraces feedback, curiosity, and continuous improvement. You no longer perceive mistakes as failures, but as vital information for refining strategy and execution. Each lesson learned integrates into your self-concept, reinforcing your competence and increasing your capacity for rapid progress. The compounding effect of identity transformation cannot be overstated. External efforts, strategies, and opportunities are amplified exponentially when they are executed by someone whose internal identity is aligned with success. Decisions are faster, risk management is sharper, and execution is more precise. What might take years for someone constrained by an old identity can happen in months because every aspect of thinking, perception, and behavior is optimized. Finally, identity transformation removes self-imposed limits. Most people plateau not because opportunities are scarce, but because their internal self-image restricts them. Once you redefine who you are, the boundaries of possibility expand. The second million, or accelerated wealth, becomes a natural outcome because your actions, thinking, habits, and energy are all operating from a higher level of capability. Your identity drives your trajectory, and when it is transformed, success accelerates beyond what effort, knowledge, or strategy alone could achieve.